Welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I know what y'all are thinking. Nate's about to bash on Navy SEALs again, but no, that's not what we're doing in this video. So I came across an interview that Shawn Ryan did actually a couple months ago, but I just saw it recently over on Jake's Wags YouTube channel, so shout out to Jake, where Shawn talked about a bunch of different things, but what we're going to be focused on is Shawn talking about the difficulties and honestly just the batshit insane story of when he left the military and the struggles that he faced with substance abuse and a bunch of other different things. Now, when I first saw this, I'll be honest, I was very, very impressed. I think it was incredibly brave for Shawn to come out and tell his story completely transparent and full honesty with issues this sort of dark. Okay, it's a really hard thing to do. Not only that, a lot of veterans, including myself, have suffered from a lot of the things he talks about in this video. So I just want to go through this video, and then again, we're going to watch the video, and then I'm going to stop and I'm going to sort of give my take and my perspective and the things I've dealt with alongside what he talks about as we move through the video. Okay, I think it's a pretty powerful video. If you haven't seen it yet, that's what we're going to do. All right, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely helps the channel. Follow us on Patreon for more behind the scenes content, and grab yourself some merch. Munchkin merch is in the house. Now let's jump into it, and again, we're going to go through this video step by step, and guys, it's nuts. If you want to hear about, you know, Colombian rocket fuel and just crazy, crazy shit, it's in this video. So let's jump into it and work our way through it. Bold start.
You have been in a fight or flight state for as long as your career was, basically. More adrenaline dumps than anybody else you could possibly imagine. Multiple adrenaline dumps a day. That's a lot of chemicals, you know, being released into your brain. It becomes an addiction for adrenaline. My coping mechanisms were finding new ways to get an adrenaline release. Lots and lots of sleep meds, everything from Ambien, Valium, Xanax, lorazepam, anything I could get my hands on, opiates, hydrocodone, tramadol, you name it, I'll take it.
All right, so stop there. Yes, this is, man, the adrenaline addiction. This is, I talk about this a lot. This is one of the hardest things I think guys, especially in special operations, deal with when they leave the teams and then leave the military. All right, you go from this job where, again, you're talking about combat, flying in on missions, gunfighting, jumping out of helicopters at 18,000 feet, middle of the night, oxygen, everything you're doing is lacing adrenaline to the highest levels ever. I mean, you cannot get the adrenaline anywhere really in the civilian world that you can get doing the special operator job. And so, yes, a lot of us, including me, when we get out and we leave the teams and we no longer have that sort of addiction to that drug, to that chemical, it's a really, really difficult thing to replace it with. And what a lot of guys do is, like Shawn's going to talk about here, turn to substances to try to deal with that lack of adrenaline addiction that's coming in.
I moved out of the country to Colombia, South America. I lived in Medellin for quite a while, and I got really into and started going into the worst neighborhoods I could find in Colombia to find where. And when that got boring, then I would go to another country and I would start doing it there. At the worst point in my life, I was drinking 2/5 of vodka a day. I would wake up and have about 1/5 of vodka in mini bottles that would be everywhere, all over my house, in my car, in my bedroom, everywhere. And then at night after dinner, I would just crack open 1/5 out of the freezer and start going to town on that. Wash down my pills to go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, this unfortunately is not that uncommon for a lot of veterans, especially combat veterans who've left the space. We, you know, transpose all those issues that we had and we cure them with substances. Okay. This is obviously the extreme level, right? Moving to Colombia, you know, basically getting addicted to Colombian rocket fuel, booger sugar, whatever you want to call it, drinking 2/5 of booze a day. I mean, this is as far as it gets, plus sleeping pills. I gotta say, Shawn is extremely lucky that he's even alive. I mean, when you start mixing all these things together, stimulants, depressants, sleeping pills, this is just a concoction for not waking up. Okay, so somebody was looking after him when he was going through this type of thing, because man, this is absolutely nuts. Also, when you talk about chasing adrenaline, moving to Colombia and going into terrible neighborhoods to do this type of thing, there's adrenaline to it, but it's probably not the best decision for a dude who's left the SEAL teams to deal with again, dealing with that lack of adrenaline coming in.
Sleep, which by the end of it, they didn't even really put me to sleep. And then I would wake up with a nice pick-me-up of Adderall or some other type of stimulant to keep me going, and it just became this vicious cycle for years and years and years. When you are a SEAL, there's not much support. It's not something that they like to address. They don't want to bring any light to that. It makes the units look bad, and so a lot of them pretend like it's never happening. Nobody wanted.
That's very common. That's not just the SEAL teams, that's everywhere. There is a very blind eye that's turned to a lot of issues, and this is both active duty and veteran communities alike. And if you just look at the veteran, we can't say the word, but offing themselves, self-deleting rates, I mean, it's, what do we got, 20 times the amount of people have done it that way than were lost in actual combat in the global war on terror at this point. So yeah, it's one of those sort of, and this is why we're talking about it now. And I want to say this right now, because there's going to be people watching this video, veterans that are suffering from this type of thing. If you're struggling, you need to reach out and get help, right? This is not something that you're most likely going to fix on your own. Okay, so let's keep moving on it.
Wanted to go to medical because everybody wanted to go on the mission. And so if you went to medical, everybody was scared that it might be some type of chronic illness or injury that would take them off the mission, so a lot of guys would hide it. I had a hernia that I got in basic training, and I refused to tell them all the way through because I was scared that they were going to pull my SEAL contract out from under me. So I went all the way through basic training with a bulging hernia in my groin,
So it's insane how true this is. Myself, I have so many massive injuries, ended up medically retiring eventually from them. I hid my injuries and I refused to get seen. And if you refuse to get treated for a long, long time myself, and it just ended up doing infinitely more damage. And part of the problem is when guys get so injured, so hurt, and they start hiding it, then they start self-medicating, right? So that's another thing that can lead you down this path.
Finally told them when I was done. I've had multiple concussions from explosions, from being blown up, blowing cars up, shooting huge rocket launchers like Carl Gustav's, falling out of helicopters. I don't even know how high we were because it was dark, and I missed the rope and fell out of the helo. But it was 50 feet or less. A lot of wear and tear.
Another one there, tons of dudes. When you start mixing TBI, right? Brain injuries, we all have it. Multiple blows to the head. When you're talking about Carl Gustav's, door breaching, being near IEDs, grenade explosions, or, skydiving falls, smashing your head into the ground, all these different things, right? TBI, brain damage, very, very common. And then you add TBI, brain damage into PTSD, into substance abuse. And man, that is the ultimate recipe for guys to do. Sad, but it's true.
From hump of the mountains of Afghanistan, a lot of wear and tear from buds, major back issues, those kind of things. I've never been shot. A lot of us have the same injuries and the same symptoms, and deal with PTSD and deal with traumatic brain injury and stuff like that. And when you get out, though, there are a lot of resources. Not very many government resources. The government doesn't do a very good job at treating these things.
So there, like I just said, right, this is very, very common. It's not just me. It's not just SOF. A lot of veterans, combat veterans in general, infantry, down the line, all the same problems, all the same issues. And yes, when you're talking about access to health and care, I don't even use the VA. I don't think there's any point. If you do, that's great. I've just dealt with huge wait times, right? I have private insurance, and I've gone down the road to recovery in different ways, much like Shawn is about to talk to here. So
It's a dark time for a lot of guys, especially when they get out. We're not used to slow-paced environments. We're not used to not having adrenaline dumps. We're not used to integrating into a civilian environment, and we're not used to having to deal with feelings. You have a mission to do. That's the only reason you're there. And so when you get out and you have to learn patience. I guess I'll say that. And a lot of guys don't have very good patience.
this this is super true. I'm sure pretty much every veteran watching this is going to agree with that. Dealing when you get out, the culture is so much differently, especially even in like the civilian business world and things like that, where we are so mission driven and mission focused, and everybody knows their roles and their job. And you tell somebody to do something, and they do it. You don't have to worry about anything not getting done. And then you get into an environment where none of that really happens. And yes, it's incredibly grating, and it tests your patience dramatically. So this whole thing is just a great example of what the vast majority of us went through, whether it be combat vets, soft operators, getting out. Breaks it down really, really well. There's very little here so far that he's talked about, other than the time in Colombia, that I haven't dealt with myself, and that most guys I know haven't dealt with also.
When they get out. But what there are is a lot of veterans out there who have started nonprofits, and the focus of the nonprofit is what worked for them, whether that's group therapy or psychedelic therapy, or going to hyperbaric chambers to try to repair your brain health. I did 2 different psychedelics. The first one was Ibogaine, which is about a 12-hour experience. It's like watching your entire life through a different perspective. And then you do what they call 5-MeO DMT. It's basically an ego death, and it is a death experience. That was the most intuitive experience that I've ever had. And when I came out of the death experience and experienced the bliss, I could feel and see a flow of energy coming from the ocean onto the shore, into the grass, up the trees. And for the first time in my life, I've realized that everything is connected and everything is one.
I think that's really interesting. I know a lot of guys that have done this. Ibogaine is getting really popular for veterans with PTSD and TBI. I haven't tried it myself. For me, I did a lot of behavior health therapy, years worth, which worked pretty well for me. But I mean, I've dealt with a lot of issues, I think, and Shawn's going to talk about it here. And you're also dealing with another one. Of the big one is like loss of faith, right? Loss in connection with God and things like that, which unfortunately is one I dealt with, and continue to, due to things of I did in combat and war and things like that. And again, this is why I think watching guys like Shawn talk about this, who have found that connection again through these type of treatments, I think is a great thing. So maybe something I should probably look into. I don't know, because again, kind of inspiring the way he's turned his life around.
It was really intense. I came back. I didn't need any of my meds anymore. I quit drinking. I'm sober for 2.5 years. I quit smoking cannabis. I quit a lot of things. And I was present with my family. It brings hope to all the guys that are getting out, that hear this. They hear the low points that these guys, including myself, went through, and they realize it's not impossible. It gives them hope.
So yeah, I'll tell you guys from my perspective. I dealt with a lot of issues myself: PTSD, behavior health, substance abuse, particularly alcohol. Which at my worst, like Shawn talked about, never that bad, but you get to drinking half a bottle to a bottle a day to try to deal with those demons that you ever can't really put away, right? So everybody's got to find their own way, and I found mine. I still struggle, guys. Like I have to constantly have a purpose. I have to constantly be driven. I have to constantly have my hands busy, because if I don't, I can very, very quickly spiral right back into the abyss where a lot of us have been, right? So it's really important, I think. This, again, this is a little bit different than my normal videos of entertaining and comedy and all those things, but I think it's really important to talk about, okay? So that other people watching this have known that, can know that, guys like me or Shawn, we've all been through the same things. We've been in the lowest lows, dealt with all the same problems, injuries, medical, PTSD, brain injuries, substance abuse. It's very, very common. And it's unfortunately, I think, taboo to talk about still. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody wants to be a tough guy. Everybody wants to act like they don't have any problems and they don't care about the things they did in combat and war. And it doesn't affect them, and it doesn't affect their relationships with their wives and their kids and all these sorts of different things. And that's just not true. It does. It does to all of us. And I think the more that guys like Shawn are willing to come out, tell their story, no matter how dark it is, when people hear that, it can give them hope of, hey, there's someone just like me who was in an even worse place than me and has come all the way out of it. Shawn's, again, refound his relationship with God. He's given up all his substance problems, and I think it's awesome, man. Again, very, very inspirational. I haven't got that far myself. I've given up a lot of vices. I try to push myself to recovery in a lot of different things, with physical injuries, emotional injuries, medical injuries, mental injuries, but I have a long way to go too. So I want you guys to know that too. It's not always easier for me. I find myself sliding in and out of the darkness a lot as well. So if you're somebody watching this who, again, is in low points of your life, whether you're a veteran or not, just know that there's hope, and there is better days on the other side, right? As long as you're willing to put in the work, whether it be through the types of things Shawn talks about here, or through behavioral health or physical fitness or whatever you got to do, you can do it. All right. So don't ever give up and decide to take the route of, the self-deletion, because it's not worth it, guys. So again, just shout out to Shawn on this one. Super inspirational video, right? A lot of people might make fun of that. The people who make fun of that video are the ones who've never been through anything difficult in their lives to begin with. So yeah, a lot of honor and integrity in being willing to share that story. So, and then hope you guys enjoyed sort of my take on the things I dealt with and my experiences as well, because I've been through a lot of the same things, as well as probably a lot of you have. So that's going to do it for this one. Hope y'all enjoyed that one. Take care of yourselves, please. And I'll catch you on the next one.